Welcome to Candidly Copilot with your hosts, Chad Stout and Michael Gannotti. Sit back, grab a cup of coffee, and let's get candid with Copilot. All right, welcome back, everybody. And we got both of us in the house today. So we are co-hosts. I'm Mike Gannotti. I'm a tech specialist here at Microsoft on Microsoft 365 Copilot. I can't get the name straight after because they keep changing them. But I'm joined by
Chad Stout, Copilot technical specialist in the health and life sciences vertical here at Microsoft.
So we've both been running around. It's been a while we got to talk, bud. So
Yeah.
What have you been up to this last weekend? Anything?
So this last weekend, probably one of the last nice weekends here in Utah. Definitely, today's probably the last day. We've got snow in the mountains. Looking forward to ski season. But got a few things done. Last minute items in the lawn. Going to swap out the mower and blower to this afternoon. That's a big commitment. That means it's coming. But other than that, I did get to play golf with some friends I haven't seen in a while yesterday, and that was a lot of fun, right?
Nice.
4 guys trying to play golf, laughing a lot. How about you, Mike?
So, well, just before the weekend, I went and we work with healthcare and life sciences. I got to have some up close and personal time for my heart. Boom, boom, boom. And had a what they call an ablation because I had some crazy cells making my heart doing some funky things, but phenomenal team. It was just great to be able to be around the clinicians, and they did a phenomenal job. So spent the weekend just kind of resting as I heal up. But something else happening today, which is
Veterans Day, baby. Yes, sir.
Got my 2nd Infantry Division hat for 1st of the 23rd Infantry. It's not going to show, but I'll put it up. That was my last duty assignment that was in Korea. And so they made, that's an exercise in futility trying to show that. But that was the end of my military time. So a lot of fond memories, and it's just great to see all these people posting online pictures and stuff from back in the day when we were younger.
Yeah,
and
congratulations, Mike. That's good stuff, and thank you for your service.
So today, what are we talking about, Chad? We've had crawl and walk. What's today's topic?
Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about run. And in fact, crawl, walk, run, I think it's a good way to look at it. I was last week I was in MTC in Mountain View, basically Silicon Valley. Had a group of probably 50 to 60 enterprise architects. And when you're talking to that crowd, it's important to really highlight, right, the breadth of our ecosystem when it comes to AI capabilities.
Right.
In review, right, we talked a lot about crawling in our first episode or second episode, right? And that is really SaaS-based offerings, right? In apps that we've used for decades, right?
What do you mean by SaaS? For those who are acronym averse.
That is software as a service. So very similar to, right, leveraging Office or M365 capabilities.
Yeah.
Or something like ServiceNow, right? So, or Salesforce for that matter. Mm-hmm. That's a popular one that people attribute to that type of offering. So software as a service, right? Simple to deploy, should be pretty simple to adopt, right? Because it's, again, products that we've seen for over the last 34 years, right? Like Word, like Outlook, right? Like PowerPoint, like Excel. And that capability is just embedded in your flow of work, right? So pretty simple to get off the ground, to get running, or in that case, right, we're crawling. And then, right, I missed last week's, unfortunately. One of my favorite topics is then once we've kind of right gotten our toe in the water, once we've gotten comfortable, right, with having a conversation with a machine, um, we can go beyond, right, kind of data scopes within M365 or the Office Graph, and we can start to look at data sources outside of M365 and use low code, no code, low code,
Yeah.
right, capabilities within, right, the agent creation process within SharePoint, which is super simple, right? Like if you've used SharePoint and document libraries, super straightforward,
Yep.
right? And then the ability to go into the advanced settings within that agent and start to define additional data sources, start to define, right, coming soon, actions, right? So
Yep.
agency, right? I can have this agent communicate with this agent to do another job and this agent to finish out a process.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then, right, we come to run, which is really on the right side of our
Well, wait a
ecosystem.
minute.
Oh,
So there's a couple of more things within that kind of walk, because that's a pretty,
that's
there's
true.
a lot of breadth there, right? So what some of the things I showed last week, I showed the SharePoint agent. I showed, because that's really something that you do like for your group within a SharePoint. Typically, it's specific because you have documents you want to reason over and really confine that. Then we went to the next step where you can do for your broader team, and we went into teams built and shared for the team so that anybody who got it, they could have it lit up right in Teams within that Copilot chat facility and had it across multiple sources. And then took it the one step further, which was Copilot Studio, and it pulled external data from the internet as well as internal data, reasoned across all that for a clinician looking for answers. And I didn't have to write an ounce of code. So that's a lot of walk.
That is a lot of walk. And in fact, to be honest with you, I've got examples of customers who have taken that low code or no code, low code environment, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's essentially, right, this is a,
Yeah.
right, these are people that are attuned to a process within the business, but they're not necessarily a developer, right?
Yeah.
They have an idea, they have a scope of data, right, that they want to essentially interrogate, right,
Yep.
through natural language, and they can create these kind of like MVPs, minimum viable products, to kind of just test out the theory, right? Experimentation is important and
Mm-hmm.
is important when it comes to innovation. So they're experimenting, right?
Yeah.
They're experimenting without making a massive investment. And then, right, if it's a hit, right, and it actually really helps the business, they can extend that into what we would consider the run category, right?
Mm-hmm.
Leveraging Azure AI Studio, right, to custom build a copilot, right? And so that's what was important to this EA team, understanding the ecosystem from left to right, understanding that we
Yeah.
have SaaS offerings, PaaS offerings, right, and IaaS offerings around, right, Copilot, our
It,
branded,
yeah.
right, natural
And
language
who else
processing
has
model.
that breadth?
I don't know of many. Like I know Salesforce is frantically trying to catch up, right? I just saw in the news, I think it was Wall Street Journal, they're hiring 1,000 AI related folks to go out and sell their stuff. You know, I think
But if,
I think the other hyperscalers, like there's gaps, right? Like if you look
yeah.
at GCP or you look at Amazon, there are gaps in that ecosystem. And fortunately for them, they can temporarily fill those gaps with partners, and they
Sure.
do,
Sure.
right? We've done that in the past. We definitely do that with our products. But I think we got a head start, right? So probably it's been a while since Microsoft's had a head start in some of the, new capabilities when it comes to tech. And we jumped out of the gates pretty quick, and we've got a head start, and we've got a really good set of engineers. We got a really good set of researchers, right, that have been able to put this together, and make it really easy for our customers to not only consume, but then leverage to build their own custom co-pilots and capabilities for their customers, right? They may choose to keep that internal for business processes only, but I have a provider right now that has done that internally, right? And then subsequently built a product for sale to other providers, right? So they're going to sell their co-pilot to other providers. And it's around a very, like, a use case that every provider struggles with. And it's around like clinician, right? Or clinical, people burning out, because they're just so consumed with really communication, and trying to keep up with the day to day, right? What they're there, kind of take away what's not top of their license, right? And let the AI do the work so that I can focus on, I went to med school for 8 years, and this is what I'm here to do, right? So I know it's benefited their clinical workers. I don't know the exact numbers, but there's some, major hours during the week that they're able to refocus on additional patient visits, right? Or additional surgeries or what have you. And that's really important for a provider, right? So, I mean, in a nutshell, they're taking all this communication, right? And then they're categorizing it, right? And then they're publishing it to different channels, right? After the AI has done some work on it to take away the noise. At the end of the day, it's to take away the noise, right?
Right.
So it's a really cool product. I'm glad to have been involved in that last year. But it's, they're leveraging Azure AI Studio. And in fact, I'm getting lucky again this year, right? I've got another customer, but this time in the payer space, right? They're kind of a hybrid. They're a payer, but they've got some clinics and right? But they had a need. I was speaking to their accessibility team, right? So internal need, right? For their customers, right? This accessibility team, what they brought up and what they identified as a need was, we have a group of people that are disabled to the point where they cannot speak, right? So participation in a Teams meeting is not at fidelity, right? With the rest of the participants.
Sure.
So their thought or their need was, hey, can we do some kind of text to voice, right? For those people that either temporarily, right, can't speak because they've had surgery on their larynx or in an area where it's affecting their speech. Maybe it's a temporary disability, right? So this text to speech capability is really, it's an Azure AI bot using things like Azure Communication Services, Neural Voice. There's a few other things in there, right? That you essentially either add the bot as an app to the meeting, or you invite the bot as a participant in the meeting, right?
That's pretty cool.
And you literally can, like, I can text and my voice gets represented, or, right, a voice that I select gets represented as, right, a speaker, a participant speaking in the meeting. Pretty cool stuff. Super cool that you can innovate like within weeks after hearing about this requirement, right? Share that back to the customer in a demo and say, yeah, it took us about 2 weeks. We had some problems, right, getting it into Teams because I'm not a huge coder, right? Not a coder at all, quite frankly. But something that we, right, like it was a concept, a requirement. We conceptualized it. We built it within a matter of a couple weeks. Probably could have been built within hours if somebody knew what they were doing. And it's going to help, right? Like it's a huge value prop to those people that are affected, right, by this disability where they either temporarily or long-term can't speak. I mean, that is super, I get excited about that stuff, right? Like,
yeah,
Microsoft in general gets excited about revenue. That's not much revenue, but it's really helpful to that community of users.
It's impacting lives in a real meaningful way, right?
Massively. Yeah. So that's an example, right, of using kind of this run column that we're speaking about today to quickly innovate, right? And then potentially like a customer could build that and then they could use it internally or they could sell it, right? So now they have a new revenue stream potentially.
So tell me about then, as we're talking about this, with the crawl, we were really talking about, it's okay, you can have the dog on. He cuts away. So I'll phrase it up in a sec, but he's back.
Caught me red-handed. I think he had to go to the bathroom.
I love the dog in the background. It was great.
I was waiting for it to climb on your lap. You know what that dog's name is? So his eyes were blue. It's a Vizsla, and their eyes are blue when they're really young. His name is Azure.
See, that's appropriate. There you go.
I think he just wanted to star.
You need to bring him back in. He was ready to just get up front and center. I can change your business.
That's right. Yeah, he knows everything about Azure.
So, talk to me about, with Crawl, we really were looking at, right, Copilot and AI lighting up in the, knowledge worker apps, office apps, as it were.
Boost productivity.
People use every day.
Yep.
Then we saw extensions of that in some of those same native, like SharePoint and Teams. And then what used to be, what was
Copilot
it before?
Studio?
Yeah. What was the name?
Yeah, Power Virtual Agents.
Power Virtual Agents. Yeah. So we rebranded it and because we're great at rebranding and changing names multiple times. So we rebranded it Copilot Studio, and it, really that kind of gave that breadth of walking. But then now when we're talking about moving into this really custom purpose-built, talk to me about the elements that are in something like that. What are we talking about? What are we talking about from a data end? What are we talking about from tooling? And then, what does it take to build these kind of things?
Yeah, and again, I'm not much of a coder, but I have spent some time in Azure from an apps and infrastructure perspective, putting things together, through IaaS and leveraging PaaS services, right? And so, if you want to see the tool, it's right here, right? This is Azure AI Studio. If you've got an Azure subscription, you can go right in, and actually, this is kind of cool, right? So this popped up in the last couple of weeks for me. I got Copilot in Azure.
Nice.
So I can ask Copilot how to do stuff. And I can ask Copilot how many VMs are running in my Azure subscription. And I can ask Copilot things like, hey, who has access to this resource group, right? Like, it's pretty cool.
So you have AI helping you with AI.
That's correct. Yeah. Just another natural conversation between man and machine.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yep. So here's Azure AI Studio. You can jump into the create project or hub. A hub's a grouping container for multiple projects, right?
Yep.
I'll just go into projects right now and kind of give you a feel. Look, this is just like creating a resource group or a container or a VM, right, in Azure. So I'm going to create an AI project. I'm going to select my subscription. I'm going to select a resource group or create one if I don't have one defined. And then I just, same thing, resource details, name, friendly name, share security, connectivity, and compute. And I can create a new hub here as well, right? So I'm always going to put a project in a hub. I've got, a tab for identity. I've got your typical right? Tags, and then review, create, boom, review and create it. Now I have a new Azure AI project. And then for me, right? For me, because I'm not overly skilled, this is all pretty new to me. I would definitely be using Copilot here to say, hey, how, right? Like, give me recommendations on how to create this Copilot project for a text to speech capability within Teams, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it'll give you some pointers, right? Along with the Learn articles, right? The citations, just like you're used to, right? In Copilot for M365, validate the sources, right? Before you make a decision, because that's the human part of this. Um, and then, right? And then just start experimenting, playing around. There are use cases all over the place, right? Like, not only within the health and life sciences vertical, like I think of payer examples, provider examples, pharma examples, like device examples, right? Medical device examples.
Mm-hmm.
And then, man, as you're going throughout your day, you are a consumer of all types of products, right, throughout your day. And you can definitely start to pinpoint things that, ooh, they could use AI for that. Ooh, they could use AI for that, right? So there's an abundance of processes, right, that we can start to like solve challenges around, right? Consuming challenges around
Yeah. I'm
with
looking
these
at it, and
copilots.
as you're talking, what's kind of lighting up in my head, with the first two, crawl and walk, it really is, you're in a box, you're really boxed, right? And you work within the confines of that box.
That's right.
But
Yeah.
here you're moving out now. And so you can create these custom co-pilots, right? That are just real, like when we're talking healthcare and life sciences, what popped into my head when they brought me in, um, they, they put electrodes all over me, right?
Yeah.
And I thought it was like the EKG, but they just kept putting them, and they were on my back. They were all over. And the one nurse explained. She said, "Well, we do this because we do a mapping." And the doctor was over in the corner. He goes, "I love mapping. I love my maps." And it was because what they were trying to do is look at, as the heart was reacting, trying to better narrow where the issue was occurring that they had to go address. But
Yeah.
even then, because of the limitations of the mapping software and technology, there was still an element of, it made him a better guess, but still a guess, right?
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
much more educated guess.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing things
Quicker
where
decision
we know
making.
we've seen
Yeah.
customers that are starting to do stuff with custom built and tested mission specific co-pilots or AIs for doing things with MRIs and others. You know, that would be an instance where they could say, hey, we're getting all this data and telemetry. We know when it's these things, it's these are the pieces here, but giving
Yeah.
better percentages and being able to help much more in real time narrow that down. That could be a use case where
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
not,
Yeah.
because they got that, they were setting that up, but then once they were doing the mapping, he had to then sit back and they had to interpret all
And
the data.
observe. Yep. Observe, interpret. And that takes
Yeah,
time. What if AI just says, hey, here's your top three? Bam.
yeah,
Right. In a matter of seconds. Right.
boom.
And we know that, right. We have customers that are experimenting with that. Right. You mentioned
Mm-hmm.
MRIs, right? Or x-rays or
Yep.
whatever, any medical imaging, right? Like radiology, right? Like we're getting to that point, if not already there at some of our customers where it's like, well, these are the top three and you are
Mm-hmm.
the medical expert. So
Right.
select from the top three, right?
It's not removing the clinician from the
That's
decision
right.
making. It's just helping to narrow down that ocean of possibilities to something much more manageable and to do it quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would say that goes beyond clinicians, right? That goes for everyone and every job that ever existed.
Yeah.
right? Like when we say boost productivity in Copilot for M365, that's what we're talking about. It takes kind of the minutia and the noise out of the equation, and you can make decisions way quicker. Like
Mm-hmm.
you, we talk about this a lot, Mike. Our job is we get a ton of
Yep.
questions on a daily basis. And, I can remember a day when it would be 2 or 3 hours after, right, the clock struck 5, where I'm trying to catch up, right? I'm
Yeah.
trying to get information back to my customer in a way, right, that's consumable, kind of simple, right? That's our thing
Mm-hmm.
for all walk run. Um, and not have a lot of back and forth, right? Like make it very succinct so that hopefully that one email back or that one chat back to the customer is like, oh yeah, I get it, right? With Copilot in Biz Chat or Copilot, right? Microsoft Copilot in web, I can
Mm-hmm.
get answers to questions and actually, so again, scoping, right? Scoping it down to, right, the 1 or 2 or 3 citations that I'm going to share with the customer on how to accomplish something, right? And
And
that's within a matter of minutes as opposed to hours.
yes, I was going to say, like, one of the things, and you hit the nail on the head. And I've had customers comment, "Oh, that was fast," because I'll go in and they'll ask, like, we'll have those. There's the stuff that you and I we're both a little long in the tooth, so there's things that they'll say something like, "Oh yeah, that's that," but it's an ever changing landscape, and so there's always technical questions we'll get, and we'll be like, well, I want to, I think I know, but I want to follow up on that just to make sure. I want to give you a definitive answer. And to
Yeah.
your point, it used to be the search, get 1 of 10 trillion million results, and then you had to go to those results. You had to reason across
That's right.
the content of a particular piece. Yeah, that's good. That's no good. Next, next,
Yeah.
next.
Well, and you had to wade,
Instead,
and you still have to wade through probably a page and a half of advertisements before you get to what you want,
yes.
right?
Well, that's what I'm
So,
saying. And we had to go through that and scrub it. Now it's more a matter of the AI goes, it does the search, it reasons through the content, it brings back the citations, and it synthesizes the answers with the citations. And our job then in that point is to, okay, I am an expert, and that's what we get paid for, at least for now. And
yeah.
so, I'm the expert. I need to go through this now because there are times when AI is a beautiful thing, but it is not 100% foolproof.
That's
And
true.
it's only
Yeah.
as good as the content it's looking at. So, we'll go through, you or I, and we'll be like, yeah, and we'll go to the source. Yeah, that's toss that.
Yeah.
This,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, oh, golden, golden, golden. And I didn't have to write anything, copy, paste. Here you go. Have a great
Yeah.
day.
Yeah. And it's
Yeah.
it's if you're not catching on, audience isn't catching on, right? It's really like you start to think about this through the lens of data and
Yeah.
the scope of that data, right? Like I talk about that a lot, right? Like, look, you're buying a SaaS solution, it's scoped to a specific set of data. Anything beyond that, right? You're gonna either use no code, low code, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or something more pro code, as we, kind of demoed earlier, that Microsoft Azure AI project in Studio. So, yep.
And
Think about
it
it through the
goes,
scope of the data that you're accessing, right? Or
yeah.
interrogating.
Well, and it goes again, while you're talking, my head just keeps, I'm a light bulb kind of guy. Things just pop. And I'm
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
a squirrel kind of guy. So maybe it's my ADHD. But as you were talking, what started running through my head again, data in and of itself, even in the hands of skilled experts, it could lead them nowhere, right? And but if you had AI, so my son recently, I had given him my Nissan Xterra when I got my new truck,
That's a
which
nice
I love
ride.
my truck. So I gave him my Xterra. which was a great vehicle. It has many more years and miles on it, but he was having an issue. He took it into the Nissan dealership. They hooked it up to the computer. And how many times have we had this happen? We go in, they hook something up to a computer, it spits out all this stuff, and they're like, it could be this, it could be that, it could be that. Because they're going off of data and this, what they know up here. Whereas AI can reason across the sum total of the internet, the sum total of data of completed work orders, right, for dealerships and others providing that service, and look and see the patterns, pull all that together and say, I'm not limited to what you read lately. I'm looking at everything right now.
Or what you've experienced. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and what we've seen as trends and all that. And bam, spit out, here are the two or three, to your point, two or three most likely answers. So then they can logically and methodically approach it versus, well, I don't know, we're going to keep your car for the next week. And then when they turn it back, we couldn't find anything wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like,
yeah, dude, it's so exciting. Like, I think about it. I kind of think, God, if I had the energy I had in my 20s, I would be off and running, building, right, co-pilots for all these different like industries and places.
We'd be spending our nights and weekends playing.
Yeah, exactly. Coding and playing and trying to come up with something to sell, right?
Yep.
But yeah, it's pretty amazing. I know we're pretty close to time here, Mike. We could go on, and we will. We have more episodes to come.
Sure. You know what I forgot to do for this week? I did not get a prompt of the week. Any prompts hit you recently?
Well, yeah, actually I shared one in our Prompt Buddy library on Tuesday last week, I believe. It's very specific to here at Microsoft, right? We have this process where we can request feedback from our colleagues, right? Yes. And then we have this thing called Connect, right? Which is, happens 3 times a year. It's basically a review.
Yep.
But, perspectives come like all at once, right? And you may have like 5 or 6 requests for perspectives because they want to include that in their Connect, right? Yep. And in years past, right, once you write a few, you can kind of cut and paste and change some verbiage and what have you. I ended up writing this killer prompt for perspectives and have like use IntelliSense, right, and put the name in. Right. And it's not, unfortunately, right, like that's only, the prompt itself is very specific to a Microsoft process. Sure. Right? But you could adopt it to, a feedback mechanism at your organization pretty easily. Let me try to cut and paste it here because I've got it.
Cool.
I've got it. Maybe I can
drop it in the chat.
Yeah, let's see. I'd like to see that on the top prompts list here. Let's see if it showed up. Boo! No, it hasn't. But let me go in here. I think I can cut and paste this and share it.
While you're doing that,
show it. Yeah.
Let me give a plug. Prompt Buddy, for those not aware, is available out on GitHub. It's a open source project, but you can download that for your organization, and then right in Teams, you can have, industry, you can have classification, roles, personas, all this good stuff, and then have a bank of ever-growing bank with governance, approval, and all that, where people can submit prompts, and then those prompts become available to the broader org. So when people are looking, maybe, before I do, some people get, nervous about trying things. They can grab one that's already been proven for the given area that they wanted to work with. Like you just produced one. And
and let me see if I can cut and paste this. I don't know. I suppose I can share my desktop. It doesn't really show anything. other than my prompt. So let's take a quick look at this.
And
So
then
this
we'll
is the
see
one
Prompt
I
Buddy.
wrote, right?
Yep.
It's Copilot perspective on perspectives. So
Yep.
this, again, a perspective is like feedback from your colleagues, right? And we have really, there's 3 categories in a perspective. The 3 categories are really around keep doing, rethink, and additional thoughts, right? And then the 3 categories are further broken down into keep doing. Here's something I think you do really well and hope you keep doing, right? Here's a suggestion for how you could leverage this strength further, and then rethink, right? Which is further broken down. So I did this and it came back almost perfect, Mike. I just had to change a few little things. And that amazed me, right? Because that is a lesson, right? In being very thorough in your prompt around, right, the topic, your expectations on what comes back, etc. Right? So the more thorough you are in that prompt, right, in describing kind of the scene and your expectations of what you'd like to have back, the better response you'll get. And that's across the board, right? So
Dude.
this one,
So this is writing your responses.
Yeah.
Based upon not subjective thoughts and feelings, but actual data.
Yeah. That
this rocks.
data in our Office graph, right?
I'm
Due to
grabbing
my
this.
interactions with that, right, / username.
Yeah.
I didn't try it with multiple people, but you could probably you could certainly do that, right? So if you were gonna, if you had a group of colleagues, like a team that you wanted to provide feedback to, right, you could use, right, the IntelliSense, which is the / username, / username, / username, or even group name. I imagine. I haven't tried that yet, but it worked out pretty well. I shared it. It looks like I got 3 hearts on it so far. So
I'm going to give you another one in about 5 minutes.
Maybe it's being used. I know it's helped me tremendously. Like that, it wasn't a super time-consuming thing, but you have to get in the kind of right mindset.
Yeah.
And this immediately gets you in the right mindset because it comes back and you're like, wow, that's pretty good. I'm going to change a few things. I'm going to submit it and I'm done. Right? Something that,
dude, awesome.
Honestly, if I were to do that for 3 people, like the old way, 3 people the old way would have taken the better part of an hour.
Yeah.
Right? 3 people the new way with the help of Copilot, right? I can do it in 15 minutes. That's 45 minutes that my organization's getting back to have me do something else, right?
Yeah.
Which is be in front of customers because that's what they want us to.
Yes.
That's what they want us to do. So.
Awesome. Dude, I'm going to go grab that.
Right on.
Very cool. Well, that's it for this week. We will be back next week. As many people, just to kind of, if you were looking for the link, we been taking this slow and quietly, and then posting, for people to view on demand for the most part. As we're getting into the swing, I think we'll start.
I was going to say, can we be truthful about that, Mike? We need practice.
No.
At least I do. You're the star of this show. You've done this, throughout your career. This is pretty new to me.
We're all finding our way, feeling our way. So, yeah. So I'm excited. This will be. I think the first couple of ones have been very good in content, and I know I've gotten some good feedback off the blog. So yeah.
Hopefully, we can keep everyone entertained and get better hopefully at the same time. Yeah.
All right. Well, without any further ado, then, for today, this is Mike.
This is Chad.
Bidding you all have a great day. Take care. And as always, ciao.
Bye-bye.